Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Monday, August 4th, 2025, and this is Holiday Monday, our civic long weekend. So I hope you're having a good civic long weekend. Lots of people take today off, but not me. Invasion of the West continues unabated and encouraged really by Keir Starmer and Mark Carney and all of the rest. And we're not seeing any kind of slowdown. There's documentation and numbers coming in from the first half of 2025 talking about how many people have been let into Canada. And it's jaw-dropping among a promise and an election earlier in the year talking about how they were going to tackle all of this. No, they're not. And instead of tackling, they're making it worse. And the policies that are being piled on top are making it difficult to speak out effectively against these terrible policies that are making life awful in Canada at this point in time. Alberta separation news. There's just some updates. I've seen people talking about things, and I just wanted to bring people up to speed on what's going on with that. Still no trade deal. Not surprising. Mark Carney is being ignored by Donald Trump. Carney tries for a meeting and is completely ignored on the deadline day. But since then, he's flown to Vancouver and had some embarrassing photos taken. And people were saying it's AI, but it certainly wasn't AI. It's just bad, putting himself in a bad position, just like Justin Trudeau during his first term, or I think the first term where he was prime minister. He went to Vancouver Pride and he got a picture with that young girl who wasn't wearing a shirt and kind of faux pas. And this is a similar kind of faux pas, but with a man's ass cheeks, and it's ridiculous. So Mark Carney is not serious about dealing with the trade issue that he's created, and instead is going and taking obscene pictures to celebrate Pride, which I don't think anybody wants that in 2025, period. Trump is using tariffs, and he's using the money he's making with tariffs to muse about removing income taxes completely from the United States. He says, yeah, I think we can get rid of them. And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we got to talk about trade. And National Post is reporting the U.S. trade advisor says Trump's tariffs rate is unlikely to change. And so the new U.S. tariff rates are pretty much set with little immediate room for negotiation, Donald Trump's trade advisor said in remarks aired Sunday, also defending the president's politically driven levies against Brazil. Trump, who's wielded tariffs as a tool of American economic might, I don't think so. He's looking at the debt piled up on the United States, and he says, we've got to deal with this. We can't have a bankrupt nation. That's insane. And so economic might? I don't think so. Here's Donald Trump talking about what he wants to do with the tariffs. And he says, I wish people understood the tariffs. I feel like my news media is not clarifying anything for me at all. My news media is lying to me to get me to believe something that maybe isn't true about Donald Trump. Here's Donald Trump talking about what he's going to do with the tariffs.
And it's possible we'll do a complete tax cut because I think the tariffs will be enough to cut all of the income tax. Now, we have a lot of debt that's been left to us, unfortunately over many years. We'll take care of that. But the tariffs, if people only understood the tariffs, we're going to be giving people of this country a tremendous tax cut. And we're going to start with people making less than $200,000 a year.
So there you go. There's a plan, and Trump seems to follow through with a lot of plans. Although we've got a segment at the end here which casts a little bit of doubt on, or confirms maybe who Trump works for, and his speaker and his vice president, but I digress. Jim Ferguson's talking about what's going on with Carney being humiliated and Trump ignoring him by trade deadline day. No deal with Canada, no meeting with Canada, no nothing for Canada. And Jim says Carney's team humiliated in D.C., not a single meeting secured. Mark Carney's Canadian trade delegation just left Washington in utter embarrassment. They came for high-level talks, and no one in the Trump administration would meet with them. Not state, not commerce, not even staffers. This isn't diplomacy. It's a global snub. I told you, we're competing for a similar contract, and Trump is tap dancing away and smiling at us and waving while completely ignoring us. This is what it feels like to be frozen out by the most powerful man in the world. And Mark Carney is at the receiving end of that snub, which is pretty interesting. What does this mean? According to Jim, Canada's just gotten frozen out of critical trade talks. The U.S. sent a clear message. Carney has no pull. For a man groomed for global leadership, this is a crushing blow. Yep, he is one of the capos. He's above Justin Trudeau. He's the fixer they sent in to fix Justin Trudeau's mess that he made. That's Carney's job. And he was touted as the Trump whisperer, and France is coming to talk to us about how to deal with Trump and blah, 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 blah. And Trump knew all of this and now is freezing Carney out. And we'll see. I don't know. Maybe some people were saying that Trump and Carney are working together to enrich Carney and Trump, and both of them have dealings in similar companies and so on and so forth. Maybe that's true. I'm not sure. But this seems like Trump is trying to crush globalists, and globalists represented Canada. When Washington won't even shake your hand, you're not negotiating, you're begging. Carney's global image is unraveling in real time. Maybe. We'll see. Canada's being led by this globalist idiot who's being dismantled by Trump right now. So that's interesting. Here is Table Salt and CBS Face the Nation asks the Canadian delegation directly how they feel about getting stood up by Trump. So how does that feel, guys? You feel stupid? Here we go.
From Moncton, Canada. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ms. Brennan.
You were just here in Washington negotiating, and while the talks are officially continuing, you left town without a deal, and you left town with now what is a 35% tariff on goods. How much of a setback was the president's decision to do that while you are still at the table? Are there any plans for the two leaders to speak? I saw President Trump said your prime minister called him Thursday and they just never connected. I mean, are tensions that high? And given the changing justification for the tariffs, do you really feel like you're negotiating with the other side in good faith?
Yeah, sure we do. Of course we do. As I say, the conversations have been informative, constructive, and cordial. I would expect the Prime Minister will have a conversation with the President over the next number of days. That's certainly my plan, again, with Secretary Lutnick, recognizing that we think there is an option of striking a deal that will bring down some of these tariffs, provide greater certainty to investment. Ms. Brennan, we passed in Canada our version of the President's One Big Beautiful Bill. It's called the One Canadian Economy Act, which we think will unlock up to 500.
It ignored supply management. It ignores the important ones, the important aspects of interprovincial trade. And they say, oh yeah, we passed the same bill. No wonder Trump's ignoring these idiots. I would ignore them too. They're not serious people, and they're absolutely not negotiating in good faith. Mackenzie is talking about what Mark Carney is doing instead of dealing with this disaster that he made by ignoring the warnings and the announcements from Trump on the 11th, and then he was supposed to convene his cabinet on the 23rd, but he met with the premiers instead, did nothing about the trade, didn't call Trump as far as I'm aware, didn't make any overtures, didn't try to do anything. And by do anything, I mean, where's the fentanyl czar? Where's the movement on supply management? Where's the attempt to buy down the 35% tariff by investing in the United States, maybe by sending some Canadian companies there, maybe milk companies, who knows? But they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to maneuver in good faith. They didn't do anything to maneuver in bad faith. They didn't even try to pretend that the fentanyl czar was doing something. Last time they had photo ops in front of Black Hawk helicopters, right? With the fentanyl czar. We're doing something, sir. Don't tariff us. This time, totally ignored it until the day before. And they thought, oh yeah, no problem here. Oh, well, right? And now he's getting a picture with a dude wearing a thong, and it's disgusting. And I don't really want to highlight it very much. But Mackenzie says, to all the dummies in my mentions citing Grok saying that this is fake AI, this is fake or an AI image, this is a real photo. It was shot by this person and posted on Reuters Connect, which journalists worldwide use. Not being able to search what's posted on Reuters shows how useless Grok is. So yeah, Grok is pretty useless. They're all pretty useless. I blocked Grok since Grok was removing people's accounts for reciting history. Here's CBC Watcher and the Winnipeg Sun. He's responding to the Winnipeg Sun or using quotes from the Winnipeg Sun. And the headline is, Carney clearly oversold himself to voters. Carney's a globalist. The whole point of what they're doing now, climate change is failing. People don't believe in climate change. People don't think climate change is happening. And if climate change is happening, and 100 years from now, Canada may not exist, well, the fact that we're importing millions of people and our economy is imploding and we can't house them and our services are being destroyed. Healthcare is being destroyed. Education is being destroyed. Canada may not exist in 5 years. People are realizing there's clear and present dangers in the next 5 to 10 years rather than 100 years, and they're refocusing. And climate change is going out the window. And so the government needs a way to control us that's like climate change. And what they're going to do, but unlike climate change and unlike COVID, they want something, quote, real. And so they're going to create a financial mess, a financial disaster, and say, oh, you bankrupt the country, and now the IMF has to come in. And basically, they're going to use financial lockdowns instead of health lockdowns or anything else. And it'll be a real crisis, a, quote, real crisis, because the financial mess will be something that is real and we have to deal with. And so whereas climate change, if we just stopped spraying the damn skies, I think that the weather would go back to normal and people would be shit shocked. But fundamentally, I think the only reason we're seeing any kind of difference in the weather is because it's being geoengineered that way. And I wish I was wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And so the second we stop all of that, climate will go back to normal, and they won't have an excuse to say, oh, we have to spend all this money to stop climate change, because it's made up. It's a hoax, right? And so people will not tolerate that, just like people did not tolerate COVID. So they need to make a real disaster, and the real disaster will be financial, and that will justify austerity, financial lockdowns, because you can't go anywhere and can't do anything. And then they'll continue doing their global warming thing because people will be too weak to oppose it at that point in time. That's the plan, though. Here's CBC Watcher. I don't think it's oversold. The job of the media is to sell us a story that keeps the pitchforks and all of that from showing up in Ottawa, to remove the government that doesn't work for us, that instead works for the WEF. That's the job of the media, and that's what they've done. And now they're saying, oh man, we got it wrong. They got it wrong because they were selling you a story to keep their power. That's it. And their subsidies and all the rest. That's it. That's the only job of the media, and they've done it. And this is just another evolution of that. So it's not clearly oversold himself to voters. Carney lied every single day of his campaign. It was the same campaign that Biden ran against Trump. Trump was clearly the more popular candidate. The election in 2020 was clearly rigged. The election in 2025 in Canada, clearly rigged. And yet we're talking about, oh yeah, Carney oversold himself. Yes, he did. He does not work for us. He represents globalist rule in Canada that does not listen to the citizens. And the media is running cover, distracting you like a magician. Look over here and not at the globalist WEF board member, central banker, robber baron who runs your country. That's their job. That's the point. Okay. So unfortunately, I wish I was wrong, but again, I don't think I'm wrong. We're going to do our grab bag of invasion, because this is an important story and it extrapolates to Canada and indeed the whole West. And the more they pretend to fight the problem, Nigel Farage included, Pierre Poilievre included, the more they pretend to fight the problem, instead of closing the borders, we're going to have a blue seal test to fast track foreign doctors to solve the health care problem. What? Right? Like, no, the problem is completely open borders. The problem is you destroyed healthcare workers by mandating a vaccine, and people who are coming here think that that's normal and they'll comply, whereas people who understand that they have rights won't. It's unbelievable what's going on. It's unbelievable. Here's CBC Watcher again, and they're highlighting from the Century Initiative, Canada's immigration issues are worsening. And here's a quote from this. The most recent immigration data for 2025 signal that there has been no curbing of immigration, but rather a continued aggressive intake of newcomers. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, reports that between January and April of this year, there were more than 817,000 people who arrived in Canada, 132,000 granted permanent residency, 194,000 study permits, and 491,000 work permits. At this rate, Canada can expect more than 2.4 million people to arrive in the country this year, 2025, not including those migrants accepted as refugees or asylum seekers, such as the people who were recently jetted over from Gaza. So we're talking about a massive increase into the number of people coming into the country. In the Harper years, 450,000 was high, and I think Harper was doing between 250 and 350 for most of his years, and that was high. And what's happening now is jaw-dropping. Into a population of 40 million people, 2 million people a year is a huge percentage of the population. Normally I would pause it, but I can't pause it because we're live streaming. But that's That's a lot. That's a lot. I don't know what the percentage of the population, 2.5 million people or 2.4 million represents, but it's high and we shouldn't tolerate that kind of stuff. And yet here we are being forced to tolerate this kind of stuff while suffering the negative consequences. Here's a picture from Iceland, Sweden. I don't know where this is from, but I think it's like a Nordic country somewhere. And Pascal says it's just a conspiracy. Shut up, white supremacists. And so the grade 9 class from 2010 is mostly white, right? It's mostly white in this white country. And then the class from 2025, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 white kids. 5. Is that a white kid? No, that's an adult. Ha! That's an adult. I thought this is an old kid. No. So 4 or 5 white kids. 4 white kids. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this guy a white kid? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 white kids. How does that change so drastically in 15 years? The native population stops having babies, and the replacements are having lots and lots of babies. And I hear the other thing that is happening is 20-year-olds are pretending to be 15-year-olds and going through high school to gain access to young girls. Wild stuff, man. Wild stuff. Absolutely crazy. Here's Red Pill. He says, the most dangerous thing happening in the world today is Western governments turning against their own citizens. Nothing else comes close. I think that's true. Wall Street Mav says, massive protests all over Britain today to close the borders. The UK is finally waking up. So there's Manchester, Waterlooville, Newcastle, and London. Everyone is protesting the invasion of their country. They don't like that. Here's Nigel Farage's lady who is talking about securing the borders, and she is actually just overseeing the 2030 agenda. Higgy says, this is Angela Eagle. Her job is to stop illegal immigrants coming into the United Kingdom in small boats. Just listen to her. Here we go.
Just looking at last week, 1,355 migrants crossed the channel in small boats, 1,355. So if that figure of 50 potential returns a week is the right kind of area, we're hardly talking about any denting of the figure overall at all, are we?
Look, we have had no prospect of returning anybody to France since Brexit, and the withdrawal agreement didn't contain any kind of returns agreement. This is the first time since Brexit that we have the potential to return people to France. We're working with our French colleagues to operationalise that as quickly as possible. We're also working with our French colleagues who've stopped 12,000 crossings so far this year, 12,000 people crossing, to change their stance, their maritime stance, so that they can stop boats in shallow waters. The tactics of the people smugglers change when they realise that particular rules and regulations are in effect, which is why they developed this way of having people stood in the water to clamber on boats. That is going to change soon when our French colleagues change their tactics. We have to change our tactics to adapt to the changing tactics of the people smuggling gangs. And this £100 million of extra money will help us to crack down hard on the vile people smuggling gangs, which are putting people's lives at risk for millions of pounds in organising these illegal crossings.
What do you have a navy for? If, say you had a piece of land, it's your island, right? Your island. And it's a small island, so you can see all of it, right? And if people started and you had a navy, it's a small enough island that you can see all of it, but you have a navy, okay? Let's just pretend. And you can see people coming over in boats. What is your navy for? If not to stop those invading people who, when they get there, demand that you feed them, but you don't have enough food, and clothe them, but you don't have enough material, and, house them, but you don't have the houses, etc. And there's so many of them that your way of life is suffering. And you have a navy, though. What's it for? Why do you have a navy? At what point do you abolish your navy to pay for these people? Because you can't pay for the navy and these people too, right? So what's the navy for? Why do you have a navy if you're not going to stop these people from invading your country with the navy via your navy, right? I bet you they'd stop sending the boats if you said, listen, we're going to sink you. We're not going to let you come into our country anymore. We're going to sink you with our big Navy here. See that? We're going to shoot those gun things that we've got on there because we put them there for some kind of reason. I'm sure they were intended to be used on people who meant us harm, like coming to steal our resources and stuff. So we're going to use these guns and shoot your boats if you come in. And then, here's the really important part. Follow through with that. Give them a warning. Say, listen, we're going to shoot your boat. And then, when they come, shoot the boat and say, don't come here. We're not going to pick you up either. That would do it. I would bet you a whole bunch of people would stop coming like that. It would be very fast. Honestly, why do you have a Navy? Why do you have a Navy? Here's what happened. A migrant person spat on a British person. The British person said mean words. Who do you think is being bothered by the police?
So you have a problem with my words?
Yes.
Because a filthy migrant just spat on me?
Yeah,
and you've got the issue with me?
Yes, that's it. Right there. Yes, a filthy migrant spat on you and we've got the problem with your words, lady.
We have a duty to challenge that language, yeah, because we're police officers and it's...
Because he's filthy and he's migrant and he attacked me like...
Okay, so spitting, like, you know how kids playing baseball will like spit on the ground because adult baseball players spit on the ground. My mom in baseball, she always said, oh, that's filthy, right? And my mom's British. And so as a child, if I spit, I would be called filthy. Like it was like, that was kind of thing. And isn't spitting on somebody assault? You can spit on somebody, but if you say, oh, that's filthy, that's a problem. And a problem that 3 police officers and like a momish one says, oh yeah, that's what we need to really have a discussion about, right? Like, give me a break, lady. This person, oh, you can't see. Oh, yeah, you can. This person just spat on me. That's assault. I'd like to press charges. Like, what the hell? Here's this again.
Because he's filthy and he's migrant and he attacked me like the other one.
We're trying to help you report that we can't not challenge that language because...
Okay, what's your numbers? So you'll find my language offensive 1483 3028
still happy to help you with your
1192.
challenge you when you use language like that.
Especially when you're here in the public as well, because obviously the people walking past us.
And that's fair.
Well, I think filthy migrants attacking English people is disgusting.
Yeah, you're also swearing as well, madam.
And that's an issue. Since when is swearing a crime?
Unbelievable. So the police do not work for us. The government don't work for us. So nobody's working for us, everyone. Contrarian says Canada is hiding a lot of secrets. How many Canadians knew this? Canada has the most Muslim Brotherhood memberships outside of the Arab world. Canada's role as a safe haven stands out due to its tolerant legal environment and historical immigration patterns. So that's interesting. I hadn't heard that, and it's concerning and very plausible. Absolutely plausible. Michelle says, why is it that most Indians are coming to Canada? Their country is not at war. What are the reasons for them to immigrate to Canada? Could it be the great benefits they get when they come? So what's the pull? In England, the pull is if you get there, they'll put you up in hotels. Canada will do the same. Why are Indian people coming to Canada exclusively and claiming refugee status? Why does Canada recognize that status? We employ people with H-1B visas in the United States and other versions of that, temporary foreign work and all sorts of other stuff. We employ people from India. Is there a conflict that I'm unaware of? Like, I don't understand. And I thought this is a great question because I don't understand the base motivation for the whole thing. It's very, very concerning. Here is Tom, and he says, there's no real plan to stop illegal mass migration into the United Kingdom. Embarrassment for Keir Starmer's top aide who told the PM he had to smash the smuggling gangs. As it is revealed, his father's firm was handed £6 million to house asylum seekers. So yes, we've got to smash those gangs, but my dad's got to have some money first to house them. Wild. Matt says a teacher in the United Kingdom who said Lucy Connolly is a victim of 2-tier policy and should not have been jailed has been fired by Preston College after a Muslim colleague said his comments were Islamophobic. Ridiculous. This is how they freeze free speech, right? You can say it, but if you say it, which saying something and not having a consequence for saying that thing is the hallmark of free speech. If you say it, we're going to consequence you, right? Sure, you can go swimming, but if you go swimming, we're going to arrest you. Well, then I can't go swimming. I can't say what I like. Very interesting stuff. Here's another one. The police have now allegedly enacted Section 42A, which bans protesters from demonstrating outside the Britannia Hotel for 28 days. Women peacefully protesting is causing distress. to the migrant men in the hotel, anti-Semites and Islamists in London every week is fine. So they're seeing the pro-Palestinian protests the same as us, and it is having a negative impact, same as us, and their protected protests, same as here. Very, very concerning. And we've got to say goodbye to the stream. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we will catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, we will carry on and finish the show. And we will do our grab bag of governance. Confidence in Wab Kinu's government crashes. Did anybody have confidence in Wab Kinu's government in the first place? No? No. Let's stop pretending we're still in the game. The latest Fraser Institute's annual survey of mining companies makes one thing crystal clear. Wab Kinu's Manitoba is no longer viewed as a serious place to invest in mining. That's not political opinion. That's a verdict of 350 mining executives, analysts, and industry leaders evaluating 82 jurisdictions around the world. And their judgment, Manitoba is